Seema, I want to share something really, really important to me. You know that I've been interviewing celebrities for the last 13 years, and we talk about their larger than life personalities, and at some point there's so many common denominators in all of their stories, the rise, the struggles, the magnificent success they've had. I've always harbored the secret desire to want to interview everyday people like me who have magnificent stories to tell. You are the very first everyday, larger than life personality that I wanted to interview, and I'm so happy that you agreed.
You know what, Raj? Thank you. I'm so honored, but I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes.
I really thought you called me here because I was one of the celebrities that you were going to interview.
Can I tell you something, girlfriend? You are way more larger than life than any celebrity I've ever interviewed, and I want to get into why I feel that way.
Yep.
When I first met you, you told me that you're a cancer graduate. You had breast cancer a number of years ago. And I want to kind of go back there. And the reason I want to do that, sweetheart, is that a lot of people, especially within our culture, find it really difficult to share stories of challenge, right? Just because of the way we've been brought up, right? And even more so because we're women. There's certain things that we shouldn't talk about, we should just bear because they have for centuries. That's the story of the woman in our culture.
Absolutely, yeah.
The one thing that really inspired me and what I want to talk to you about is that the first thing that I saw when I went on your blog was this beautiful capturing of what you call your life so far. And it was that dreams do come true. In there, I saw something that actually made me bawl my eyes out. But it made me bawl my eyes out for all the right reasons. And that is the solidarity that I saw that was effortless and unflinching between you and your husband, Deep. When you were going into your treatment, obviously you had to shave your head, but your husband right there with you was shaving his.
Yep.
Right? And it was a magnificent moment. And I felt to myself, you know what? Do people do stuff like this within our culture? I mean, we see it out there in the world, and people comfortably talk about, their journey through cancer. And and I don't find that a lot of people in our community do.
We don't have enough awareness out there. I think the community at large, not our community, but the community at large will, they have the cancer runs and they have all these walks and all of that, and which I've been a part of as well. But I find that in our community itself, we don't have enough. We don't have enough of the one-on-one and to talk about the awareness and things to be cautious about and things to have some education and knowledge around, right? And that's why I want to talk to you. There's so much to be aware of out there. A lot of things come to mind. Age. Mm-hmm. When I first got diagnosed, everyone was like, no, including my doctor, including the surgeons. They were like, listen, you're quite young, so don't worry about it. I had to push because intuitively, you trust your own body. It's part of my awareness message. I knew something was off, and I had to push for that.
What was the off that signaled in your mind?
You know what, Raj? I was there in the room in my doctor's office with my husband, and the doctor is giving us our report, and she said, listen, this is the first report, and she said, listen, it's fine, they're fibroadenomas, don't worry about it. And in 2004 I did have a fibroadenoma, but they said, you know what, let's take it out. Sure, they took it out, and I didn't flinch then. Never did it cross my mind that it could be something bigger.
Right.
It was a procedure. I was in and I was out. But that day, when I was sitting in the office with my husband, and the doctor's like, "Don't worry about it. It's nothing." Why would I think anything else? Like, what signs gave me something otherwise? I just had a baby. Yeah. If anything, I would have chalked it up to my body healing from that.
Absolutely.
But I'm not sure what it was, other than me trusting my feelings, my body, and thinking, well, listen to it. There's something
That's
right
not
here.
Right, yeah.
And
so what did you do to kind of take it to that next level, to actually figure out what that something was that wasn't right?
Well, what happened was they gave me the report, said, don't worry about it. This is what it is. And I had to push back, and I said, absolutely not. I can't accept that. I need to know more. And so that's when they had sent me in for a biopsy. And I had coincidentally come back into the doctor's office because I was just reacting every day. I had hives every day. I was on Reactin every day. And I came back in the office to say, I just need an allergy specialist recommendation. And she goes, well, I'm glad you're here. I was actually going to call you. I need you guys to sit down. She sat us
boy.
down, and no fault to any doctor or anyone in that profession. There's no way to sugarcoat these things. And there's sometimes you have to keep that distance emotionally to give a message, and that's what she did. Seema, I want to tell you something. I'm glad you're here. I will give you your recommendation, but you need to know you have breast cancer. And that moment, like that punch in my gut, in my face, just, I couldn't even get anything else out. All I felt was my husband's hand grab mine, and he couldn't get anything out. And that's where the story from that point on started.
What was that first thought you had when that happened? Because I'm asking you this because I read on your blog that you almost felt like you went into a place of darkness as your instinctual thought process that, will any more of my dreams come true?
When the doctor first told me what happened, in the car waiting for me, because I thought it was going to be a quick visit to the doctors to get the recommendation and I'll be out. Mom, can you wait in the car with Dada, my eldest daughter? Sure, I'll be here. My husband and I run in quickly to get it. Thankful he came in. I'm surprised actually he just didn't wait in the car saying, go get your recommendation and come.
Which is what he would normally do.
He would normally do that. And everything happens for a reason. Every step of the way for our journey, before, during that, and after that, has all mapped out to us supporting each other in that exact moment when we need it. And normally, no, he wouldn't have probably come in for me just getting a recommendation, but he came in. And in that moment, when he grabbed my hand, I'll be honest, obviously, he's my husband, I love him.
Of course.
But that wasn't my first thought, it was my daughter. She was in the car, my mom's watching her, and my heart was like, I can't go anywhere, I have to be here. This is my daughter. Like, who do I, before I start crying, but the first thought that's always gonna come to your mind is, you can't leave for your kids. Your kids have to be, they need you. You're
not done. You're young, right? That's
Well,
what you think. Like,
yeah.
I mean, my kids, you had two daughters, both very, very young,
Yeah.
right? Your life had just started.
Thank you. I was very young when I had
Yeah.
them.
You was and you are.
Yeah.
I correct myself.
Yeah.
But I mean, because it's almost like, if someone gets ill when they're a lot older, you're like, okay, you know what? We're all born to die at some point,
Yeah.
right? And I don't say that in any other way than just those are the facts, the biological facts.
Right.
But you don't expect something like this when you've got everything to live for, when there's everything happening in your life. You've got kids, your husband, your job, family, everything is happening. And that seems to be kind of the underlying theme that I feel from your journey is, I got a lot of dreams. I got a lot of dreams. I've only just tapped the surface of them. May I say that perhaps that might have been your strength? That may have been the reason that you thought, you know what? I'm not done.
When the choice is taken away from you, and I've said that to many people in my blog and everything, when the choice is taken away from you for something, that's when it becomes the hardest. But if I had individually made that choice on my own, it would have been a different thing.
Of course.
But I didn't. I still wanted that soccer field.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And as much as my husband did and does, he'll never say that to me. He'll always, I'm happy. I'm happy with you here, you healthy. I'm happy with our kids healthy, right? But everyone has those dreams. No matter what happens in your life, you'll always have that dream.
So what was that dream for you that, took you through the journey to graduate?
It was more than just a dream. It was that new chapter that I had started. I had a baby. That you're a mother. You know, when you have a baby, before I was married, before I even met my husband, I was a consultant and I traveled weekly, and that was my life. It didn't matter how many hours I put in, that was my life. And it didn't faze me either way. And I always thought, oh my God, how am I gonna have, get married and have kids? Like, how will I be able to manage this? But that moment, and not even during pregnancy, because even during pregnancy, you might think, how am I gonna manage doing that and having kids and a family and a husband and all that and still be happy? But when you have that baby, that first moment you hold your baby, everything changes. Your priorities are, it's not to say that you don't have those same ambitions, but your priorities change.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I always say, Seema, is that when I had my son, I got over myself.
Yeah.
I realized that it wasn't about
not.
me. It was about much more than that.
Yeah.
And so, and like you said, the first thought in your mind when you found out what you did was of your daughter, right? Was that what got you through that entire process, that journey that you had to go through, you know, going through the treatments, you know, on a daily basis and everything that you went through?
You know, she got me through. Obviously, my husband got me through. You know, there's moments where when you're going through chemo, depending on the type of chemo you're on and how your body reacts, my chemo for me, because I was young, they gave me the hardest, they gave me the longest radiation. It was very difficult on my body. And, you know, the first hurdle was, yeah, my hair started falling out. But what he did was he read a book. It was The Cancer Husband. And he read a book and he's like, I'm prepared. Don't worry. He knew that 14 days after my first treatment, my hair is going to start falling out. And what is that going to be for me emotionally? So he was prepared for me emotionally. So he knew that, Seema, your hair's starting to fall out. So I woke up that first morning and on my pillow was hair, not one strand, not two like we normally wake up and there's that much hair. It was a chunk of hair. And I still wasn't ready to shave it off because I hadn't accepted it. And then as a couple days had progressed, everywhere, there was just hair falling out everywhere. And then I came downstairs, it was in the morning, he said, do you want to do this? I said, no, it's not going to happen. It's just fine, it's happening. But then later in the afternoon, a lot had happened with my hair falling out, and I came downstairs and I said, I need to do this because when I looked in the mirror, I realized I don't want to see those chunks missing. I don't want to see my scalp like that. And so that's the moment we went upstairs. We decided together that it was important for our daughter to see the process because we didn't want her to see mommy with hair and then mommy with no hair. And she was really small at the time, so we didn't want to.
It would be shocking.
It was shocking to me, and I'm sure my husband, which he will again never say, but we needed to protect her as much as we could.
Of course.
So she sat in my lap when my husband shaved my head. And then right after me, my husband went. And
did he tell you he was going to do this? Like, did he say, okay, we're going to do this together, sweetheart? Like, how did that all happen?
He told me from day one that if whatever happens to you is going to happen to me.
Oh gosh.
And I actually thought that...
You're going to get me started now.
And obviously in the back of my head, I'm like, you're too pretty. You're not gonna shave your head. But you know, after he shaved my head, he sat down and I'm like, we're really gonna do this? And he's like, yep, let's do it. And there wasn't a hesitation in him.
Well, he loves you, darling. And you already know that, right?
Yeah.
And you know, true love really, this is such a cliche, but it has to be said. True love really shows in the face of adversity or what we perceive to be challenges in our lives. And, you know, and it's in that moment that you just want to feel like you're not alone. And I think that moment, you know, that your husband, you know, joined you, he basically said without saying that, you know, I am on this journey with you.
But do you know how much he was on the journey, Raj?
Tell me.
Not just with my hair. You know, my hair is and I don't want to say
especially for us Indian women.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, let's go there.
Yeah.
For us Indian women, we're brought up where hair and, you know.
My hair was down here.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a big deal.
Of course it is, right? But you know, and I'm going to say this without, I mean, I went through it, so I'm not saying it that it's a superficial thing. It's your hair will grow back. And hundreds of people told me, Seema, your hair's going to grow back. And yeah, at the time I had to get used to it. Yes, my hair will grow back, right?
Yeah.
But that wasn't how, like, he was there for me for that. But what it means to be there for someone is not just in that. There were times with chemo being so hard, as I was saying before, chemo being so hard and hard on your body. There were moments where I was vomiting so much that he was the one to clean up, not me. And sometimes it was coming out both ends.
Of course.
Right? And he
That's
was
just
the
a
one,
part of it. Yeah.
And he was the one who cleaned up, not me. Yeah. To me, more than hair, that was him being there. Because sure, I looked different. I didn't have hair. I was getting smaller and all of that. But in my head somewhere here, I still wanted to look good for him.
Of course.
And it was so hard to do that, but he never once made me feel any
that you
less,
weren't beautiful. Yeah.
And if anything,
he probably thought you were more beautiful, if I know your husband.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I was just going to say. He embraced every part, every look that I went through. Yeah. And he embraced that all, and he helped me embrace that all.
Tell me how your daughter went through the process. Like, How was it for her? Because we often don't talk about all the different people that are affected by challenges that we may go through in life. You know, and you mentioned that your daughter was very young and she was actively bought into the entire process, as you mentioned. Give me some examples there.
The thing is with the daughter that actually went through that with us, she actually guided us. So she was sort of our spiritual healer. And it's funny, Tara, being Star,
Yes,
truly fits her because that's what she did for us. When I first found out, I couldn't stop crying for weeks on end. And I tried to do it not in front of her, but there were times where people would come and visit me and ask me, and I would start crying. And if I cried, she cried. And there wasn't a time if I cried in front of her where she wouldn't cry with me. And so I had to stop that. I would warn people if they were coming over, if she's there, we couldn't have that conversation because
fair enough.
Emotionally I didn't want to put that impact on her. And then when I went through surgery, she just knew I couldn't pick her up. So she didn't put that pressure on me. And she was small.
Instinctually, she just knew.
She did, and it gets better because after surgery, there was chemo. And there was one time, my husband ran out for work, and he's like, I need to leave you for a couple of hours. My mother wasn't feeling well, so we actually couldn't have people who weren't feeling well come to the house, just because my immune system was very low.
Yes.
And so she sat in bed with me, and he put toys around, but it was the moment where I was very weak. So for 3 hours, she did not bother me. He had fed her before she left and fed her when she came home. But in those 3 hours, a kid at her age,
she just knew.
Didn't whine, didn't do anything.
Yeah.
She just played for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And what kid does that?
Yeah.
Right? And
a kid that's connected, babe, somehow they just know more than we give them credit for.
Absolutely, yeah. After chemo, when nurses would come to the house to give me Neupogen injections, the first time the nurse came and she came close to me with an injection, thought I was sitting at the edge of the bed with me, and her first instinct was to grab me and hold me as the needle came through.
Almost like a mom does with their child,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And what an inspiring story, sweetheart.